You? A lawyer? That's the funniest thing I've heard all year. My brother said that to me at our family dinner table. Everyone went quiet, and then he laughed, like it was a joke. For years, he made me feel small, stupid, like my dreams were embarrassing. He told me I wasn't smart enough, that I'd fail, that I should just give up. But I didn't. And now, he's the one asking me for help. This is the story of how my own brother tried to crush my dreams, and how I became everything he said I couldn't be. My name is Maya. I'm 28 years old now, and I'm a corporate attorney at one of the top law firms in the city. But 10 years ago, I was just a little sister who couldn't get anything right. My brother Daniel is 4 years older than me. Growing up, he was everything I wasn't: confident, charismatic, successful without even trying. He graduated top of his class in business school, got hired at a prestigious consulting firm right out of college, made 6 figures before he turned 25. Our parents were so proud, and I was proud of him too. I really was. But somewhere along the way, Daniel stopped being my big brother. He became my critic, my bully, my constant reminder that I wasn't good enough. I don't know when it started exactly. Maybe when I struggled in high school math, or when I didn't get into my first choice college, or when I decided to pursue law instead of something more practical. Whatever it was, Daniel made it clear that he didn't believe in me. And the worst part, our parents didn't see it. To them, Daniel was just being honest, realistic, looking out for me. But I felt it in my bones, the way he looked at me, the way he spoke to me, like I was a project that had already failed. We grew up in a middle-class suburb outside of Boston. Normal childhood, normal family. Two parents who worked hard and wanted the best for their kids. But somehow, in our family dynamic, there was only room for one success story. And Daniel claimed that spot early. I was always the afterthought, the one who came second, the one whose accomplishments were footnotes to his main story. When Daniel got into Harvard for his MBA, we had a family celebration, dinner at the nicest restaurant in town, champagne, speeches. When I got into college, a good state school with a solid pre-law program, we had pizza at home. I told myself it didn't matter, that I was happy for him, that I didn't need the fanfare. But it did matter. It mattered every single day. It started small. Little comments here and there. "Are you sure law school is for you, Maya? It's pretty competitive. I mean, your GPA is okay, but the top schools are going to want more than that. Just being realistic here, not everyone is cut out for this." I tried to brush it off, told myself he was just being protective. But it got worse. When I was a junior in college, I started seriously preparing for the LSAT. I bought every prep book, joined a study group, spent my weekends in the library while my friends were out having fun. Daniel would come home for holidays and ask how it was going. I'd tell him I was studying hard, that I felt good about it. He'd nod and say things like, "That's great, but you know the LSAT is really hard, right? Like, most people don't score high enough for decent schools." Or, "Make sure you have a backup plan. Law school isn't for everyone." Every single time. He never asked about my practice scores, never offered to help, never showed any genuine interest in my success. Just doubt, wrapped up in concern. When I got my LSAT scores back, I was so excited. I'd studied for months, sacrificed so much. I scored in the 90th percentile. I was shaking when I called Daniel. I thought he'd be happy for me. There was a pause on the other end. "That's it?" he finally said. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice small. I'm just saying, if you're serious about this, you should probably retake it. Top firms don't look at 90th percentile. They want top 5%, top 3 really. But Daniel, 90th percentile is really good. For a regional school, sure, but if you want a real career, you need to do better. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. I worked really hard for this score. I know you did. I'm just trying to help you be realistic about your options. I hung up feeling deflated, like all that work had been for nothing. But I didn't retake it. I couldn't afford to wait another year. I needed to move forward. I applied anyway. And when I got into a good law school, not Harvard, not Yale, but a solid program with a strong reputation and good bar passage rates, I was thrilled. My parents were happy, they hugged me, told me they were proud. Daniel wasn't. Well, I guess it's better than nothing, he said at dinner when I announced my acceptance. Mom frowned. Daniel, that's not very nice. He shrugged, cutting into his steak. I'm just being honest. Law school is expensive, and if she's not going to a top-tier school, the ROI isn't great. I'm thinking about her future here. Dad nodded slowly, like Daniel had a point. I got a partial scholarship, I said quietly. Partial, Daniel repeated, looking up at me. So you'll still be in debt, probably 6 figures, for a degree that might not even pay off. Daniel, Mom said again, but her voice was weaker this time. What? I'm trying to help her think this through. She's making a huge financial decision. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to tell him to shut up and mind his own business. But I didn't. I just sat there and let his words sink into my skin like poison. That became the pattern for the next 3 years. Every milestone I hit, Daniel found a way to diminish it. When I made law review in my second year, something only the top students achieve, I called home excited. Daniel was there for Sunday dinner. That's nice, he said, but everyone knows the real connections happen at the top schools. Law review at a regional school doesn't carry the same weight. When I got a summer internship at a mid-sized firm in the city, he said, mid-sized firms are fine if you're okay with being mediocre. When I graduated and passed the bar exam on my first try, something only 75% of test takers accomplish, he said, congrats, now comes the hard part, actually finding a decent job. It was relentless. Every achievement was qualified, every success was minimized, every step forward was met with doubt. And what made it worse was that no one else seemed to notice. To everyone else, Daniel was successful, smart, accomplished. If he said something, it must be true. He had the pedigree, the job, the salary. What did I have? Student debt and a degree from a school no one had heard of. I started doubting myself. Maybe he was right. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I'd made a mistake. I spent nights staring at my law degree on the wall, wondering if it was just an expensive piece of paper, wondering if I should have chosen something else, something safer, something Daniel would have approved of. And Daniel kept going. At family gatherings, he'd introduce me by saying, "This is my sister Maya. She's a lawyer. Well, she's trying to be." He'd laugh. Other people would laugh. I'd smile and pretend it didn't hurt, but it did. It hurt every single time. The breaking point came at Thanksgiving dinner during my first year as a junior associate. I'd been working at a small firm for 6 months, 14-hour days, grinding, barely sleeping, trying to prove myself in an industry that chewed up young lawyers and spit them out. I was exhausted, physically, emotionally, mentally, but I was surviving. Daniel had just gotten promoted to senior consultant at his firm. He spent the entire dinner talking about it. His new title, his new salary, his new corner office, his new team. Mom and Dad hung on every word. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom kept saying. Dad asked questions about his responsibilities, his clients, his future at the company. It went on for an hour. Finally, someone asked me how work was going. I started to answer, started to talk about a case I was working on, a small victory I'd had that week, a motion I'd drafted that the partner had actually praised. Daniel cut me off. "Let's be real," he said, leaning back in his chair with his wine glass. "Maya's firm is third tier at best. She's doing grunt work for partners who don't even know her name. It's not like she's actually practicing law." The table went silent. I stared at him. "Daniel," Mom said softly, "that's enough." "I'm just saying," he continued, looking around the table like he was making a reasonable point. "If she'd gone to a better school, networked better, worked harder, maybe she'd be at a real firm by now. But she's settled, and now she's stuck." My face burned. "I'm not stuck," I said quietly. "Come on, Maya. You're 24 years old, making $40,000 a year at a firm no one's heard of. That's stuck. How do you know what I make?" "I can guess. Small firms don't pay well, especially not for bottom-tier associates." Something inside me cracked. Not outwardly. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I didn't make a scene. But in that moment, something fundamental shifted. I was done. Done trying to earn his approval. Done trying to defend myself. Done hoping he'd see me differently. Done letting him define my worth. I excused myself from the table, said I wasn't feeling well, drove home in silence. And that night, I made a decision. I was going to prove him wrong. Not for him, for me. I stopped talking to Daniel about my career. Completely. If he asked how work was, I'd say, fine, and change the subject. If he offered advice, I'd smile and nod and ignore it. I stopped seeking his approval, stopped hoping for his support, stopped giving him any information he could use to tear me down. He probably thought I'd given up, but I hadn't. I was just done performing for him. Instead, I poured everything into my work. I started staying later than everyone else at the firm. I'd be the first one in and the last one out. I volunteered for the cases no one wanted. The tedious ones, the research-heavy ones, the ones that required hundreds of hours of document review. I didn't complain, I just did the work. And I made sure every brief I wrote, every memo I drafted, every motion I filed was perfect. Not good, perfect. I studied every case site, every precedent, every rule of civil procedure until I knew them by heart. I wasn't the smartest associate, I wasn't the most confident, but I became the most reliable. Slowly, people started to notice. A senior partner started assigning me more substantive work, letting me draft important sections of briefs, asking my opinion in strategy meetings. Then another partner did the same. Then another. I wasn't loud about it. I didn't brag. I just kept my head down and did exceptional work. One night, around 10 p.m., I was still at the office working on a complex motion for summary judgment. The senior partner, Richard Chen, walked by my office. He stopped and knocked on the open door. "Maya, you're still here." "Yes, sir. Just finishing up this motion for the Henderson case." He walked in and looked at my computer screen. "That's not due until next week." "I know. I wanted to give myself time to revise it." He nodded slowly. "Can I see what you have so far?" I pulled up the document. He read through it for several minutes. Then he looked at me. "This is really good work." "Thank you." "I mean it. This is senior associate level, maybe better." I felt something warm spread through my chest. "I'm going to start giving you more complex assignments," he said. "I think you're ready." "I am," I said, and for the first time, I believed it. That was the turning point. Over the next year, I got pulled into bigger cases, more complex litigation, high-stakes negotiations. I made mistakes, plenty of them, but I learned from every single one. I started taking CLE courses in areas I wanted to specialize in: corporate law, contract negotiation, intellectual property. I went to networking events even though I hated them, forced myself to make small talk, to exchange business cards, to follow up. I joined a women's attorney group that met monthly. I found a mentor, a senior partner at another firm who took me under her wing and taught me things I'd never learn in a classroom. How to read a room, how to negotiate, how to command respect in a male-dominated field. I also started investing in myself outside of work. I hired a speaking coach to help me sound more confident in depositions and court appearances. I worked with a therapist to process the years of emotional abuse from Daniel, to untangle his voice from my own, to rebuild my self-worth. I started working out in the mornings before work, not to look different, but to feel stronger, more capable, more in control of my body. I cut my hair into a sharp, professional bob, updated my wardrobe with clothes that made me feel powerful. Not for anyone else, for me. I wanted to look in the mirror and see someone I respected. And slowly, I did. I also made a point to distance myself from my family during this time. Not completely. I still showed up for holidays, still called my parents, but I stopped going to every Sunday dinner, stopped attending every family event. I needed space to become who I was meant to be without Daniel's voice in my head. My parents didn't understand. "You're so busy these days," Mom would say, disappointment in her voice. "I know. Work is intense right now. Daniel makes time for family. Good for Daniel." I could hear her frustration, but I held firm. This was my time, my growth, my transformation, and I wasn't going to apologize for it. It took 2 years. 2 years of 14-hour days, of missed birthdays and canceled plans, of exhaustion and doubt and moments where I wanted to quit. But I kept going. Because every time I thought about giving up, I heard Daniel's voice. "You're not good enough. You'll never make it. You should just quit." And that voice became fuel. Not because I wanted to prove him wrong anymore, but because I wanted to prove myself right. I wanted to show myself that I was capable of more than I'd ever believed. And then something incredible happened. I won my first major case. It was a contract dispute. A small tech company was being sued by a former partner for breach of contract and misappropriation of intellectual property. The stakes were high. If we lost, my client would lose their company. I'd worked on the case for 8 months, hundreds of hours of research, document review, depositions, and trial prep. I delivered the closing argument. My hands were shaking when I stood up. My voice wavered for the first few sentences. But then something clicked. I stopped thinking about being nervous, stopped thinking about Daniel, stopped thinking about anything except the facts of the case and the story I needed to tell. And I told it well. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back with a verdict in our favor, I felt like I couldn't breathe. My client cried. Richard Chen clapped me on the shoulder. The other associates congratulated me. But the best part was driving home that night alone in my car and realizing something. I'd done it. I'd won a case, a real case, with real stakes, with everything on the line. And I'd done it through skill, preparation, and determination. Not luck, not connections, not a prestigious degree. Me. Just me. A few months later, Richard called me into his office. "Close the door," he said. My heart raced. Was I in trouble? "Maya, I want to talk to you about your future here." "Okay." "You've been with us for 3 years now, and in that time, you've proven yourself to be one of our most capable and dedicated associates." I didn't know what to say. "We'd like to promote you to senior associate, and if you continue on this trajectory, we're looking at a partner track within the next 3 to 4 years." I stared at him. "You're offering me a partnership track?" "Yes, you've earned it." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. "Don't thank me. You did this." I walked out of his office in a daze. That night, I sat in my apartment, a small 1-bedroom I've been renting in the city, and let myself cry. Not sad tears, happy ones, relieved ones. I'd made it. I didn't tell Daniel. I didn't tell anyone in my family right away. I just let it sit with me for a while, let it feel real. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't need anyone else to validate it. I knew what I'd accomplished, and that was enough. While I was building my career, Daniel's was falling apart. I didn't know it at first. He was still posting on social media, still talking big at the few family dinners I attended, still acting like he was untouchable. But cracks were starting to show. His consulting firm was going through major restructuring. The industry was changing, clients were cutting budgets, firms were consolidating. Layoffs were happening across the board. Daniel had always relied on his charm and confidence to get by. He was good at networking, good at impressing people in meetings, good at talking. But when it came down to actual results, actual deliverables, he was average, maybe less than average. He'd coasted for years on the strength of his Harvard MBA and his ability to schmooze clients. But in a competitive industry during a downturn, that wasn't enough anymore. He got passed over for a promotion he'd been counting on, then another. Then he got reassigned from a high-profile client account to a smaller, less visible project. He tried to laugh it off at family dinner. "They're spreading the talent around," he said with a forced smile, giving other people a chance to shine. But I could see the panic in his eyes. Then came the real blow. His firm lost a major client, one Daniel had been managing for 3 years. There was an internal investigation. Apparently, there had been miscommunication, missed deadlines, promises made that hadn't been kept. The client was furious. They took their business elsewhere. And Daniel was the account manager. He tried to blame his team, tried to say he hadn't been given the resources he needed, tried to deflect responsibility. But the damage was done. He got demoted, moved to a smaller team, lost his corner office, took a pay cut. I heard about it through Mom. "Your brother is going through a tough time at work," she said on the phone one Sunday. "Oh?" "He got moved to a different position. He's not happy about it." "I see." "Maybe you could call him, check in on him." "I'm pretty busy, Mom." "Maya, he's your brother." "I know who he is." There was a long silence. "Fine," she said, her voice tight. "I just thought you'd care." She hung up. I did care, despite everything. I didn't want Daniel to suffer. But I also knew that reaching out to him would open a door I'd worked hard to close. So I didn't call. 6 months later, things got worse for Daniel. His firm went through another round of layoffs, and this time, Daniel was on the list. Not laid off in a restructuring where he could spin it as a business decision. Fired. For performance issues. Mom called me in tears. "Maya, your brother lost his job." "I'm sorry to hear that." "He's devastated. He doesn't know what to do." "He'll figure it out." "Can you please talk to him? Maybe you have connections. Maybe your firm is hiring." "Mom, I can't do that." "Why not? You're his sister." "Because it doesn't work that way. I can't just get people jobs." That was partly true, but the fuller truth was that I didn't want to help him. Not yet. Not when he hadn't acknowledged anything he'd done to me. Over the next few months, Daniel's situation got progressively worse. He couldn't find another job, at least not one that matched his previous salary and title. He'd been making $150,000 a year, living in an expensive downtown apartment, driving a luxury car, going out to expensive restaurants and bars. He'd been living beyond his means for years, assuming the money would always be there. Now it wasn't. His savings ran out quickly. He couldn't make rent, couldn't make his car payment. He had to sell the car, break his lease, move his things into storage. And at 32 years old, he moved back in with our parents. The golden child was tarnished, and everyone could see it. Family gatherings became awkward. People didn't know what to say to him. He'd show up looking tired and defeated, a shadow of his former confident self. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I got my promotion to senior associate, my salary increased significantly. I moved into a beautiful one-bedroom apartment in a great neighborhood. I didn't flaunt it, didn't post about it on social media, didn't make a big deal. But people noticed. "Maya, you're doing so well," aunts and uncles would say. "Thank you. Your parents must be so proud."
And they were, finally. But their pride came with a bitter edge because their golden child was struggling while the daughter they'd overlooked was succeeding. Daniel couldn't handle it. He stopped coming to family events, stopped answering calls, isolated himself in our parents' basement. I heard from Mom that he was depressed, that he was applying to jobs but getting rejection after rejection, that he felt like a failure. Part of me felt bad for him, but another part, the part that remembered every insult, every dismissal, every time he made me feel worthless, felt nothing. Or maybe not nothing. Maybe justice. Not the cruel kind, not the kind where you celebrate someone's pain, but the kind where you recognize that actions have consequences, that the way you treat people matters, that karma is real.
I hadn't seen Daniel in almost a year when he showed up at my office. It was a Thursday evening. I was working late, reviewing a contract for a client meeting the next morning. My assistant had gone home hours ago. The floor was mostly empty. I heard a knock on my door. I looked up and saw him standing there. Daniel. He looked terrible. His clothes were wrinkled and ill-fitting. His face was gaunt. His eyes were tired and red-rimmed. His shoulders were slumped in a way I'd never seen before. "Hi," he said quietly. I stared at him for a moment. "How did you get up here?" "I told the security guard I was your brother. He let me up." I nodded slowly, set down my pen. "What are you doing here, Daniel?" "I need to talk to you. I'm working. I know, I'm sorry. I need your help." Those words hung in the air between us. I leaned back in my chair, looked at him standing in my doorway like a stranger. "Come in," I finally said. "Close the door." He walked into my office, looking around at the floor-to-ceiling windows, the mahogany desk, the framed diplomas and awards on the wall. "Nice place," he said quietly. I didn't respond. He sat down in the chair across from my desk, the chair where clients sat. For a long moment, neither of us said anything. "I need your help," he finally said again. "With what?" "I'm applying for jobs, and I need a reference, someone who can vouch for me, someone credible." I stared at him. "You want me to be your professional reference? I know, we haven't talked in a while. I know, things have been strained between us. But you're a senior associate at a top firm now. Your word carries weight." He still couldn't look me in the eye. "Maya, please, I'm desperate here. I've been out of work for 8 months. I'm living with Mom and Dad. I have no money, no prospects. I need something, anything. And you think I can help you get a job? I think you know people. I think you have connections. I think if you vouched for me, someone might take a chance." I folded my hands on my desk. 1,000 thoughts ran through my mind. Every insult, every dismissal, every time he made me small, every Thanksgiving dinner where he mocked my career, every phone call where he questioned my choices, every moment where he made it clear that he didn't believe in me. And now he was sitting in my office, asking for help? The irony was almost too much. I could say no. I could tell him to leave. I could return every ounce of pain he'd given me. I could tell him exactly what I thought of him, could list every way he'd hurt me, could make him feel the way he'd made me feel for years. But as I looked at him sitting there, broken and ashamed, I realized something. I didn't need to. He was already living his own consequences. He was already experiencing what it felt like to be dismissed, to be overlooked, to have people doubt him. He didn't need me to pile on. "I can't do that, Daniel," I said calmly. His head snapped up. "What? Why not?" "Because I don't lie for people, and I'm not going to tell a potential employer that you're someone I'd vouch for when that's not true." "Maya, come on. I'm not finished." My voice was steady, not angry, not cruel, just honest. "You spent years telling me I wasn't good enough, that I'd fail, that I was wasting my time pursuing law. You didn't believe in me when I needed you to. You didn't support me. You didn't even respect me." Daniel looked down at his hands. "You made me feel worthless, stupid, like my dreams were a joke. Maya, do you know what that did to me?
Do you have any idea how many nights I spent crying because my own brother thought I was a failure? His jaw tightened. I almost quit law school because of you. Did you know that? Second year, I was so beaten down by your constant criticism that I almost walked away from everything I'd worked for. I didn't know. Of course you didn't know, because you never asked. You never cared enough to see how your words affected me. Tears were building behind my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. And now you want me to help you? Now you want me to vouch for you? To use the credibility I built despite you, not because of you? I'm sorry, he said quietly. Are you? Or are you just sorry that you need something from me? He didn't answer. The silence stretched between us. I'm really sorry, he said finally. For everything, I was jealous. I blinked. What? I was jealous of you, of your passion, your determination, the way you actually cared about what you were doing. He looked up at me, and his eyes were wet. I never cared about consulting. I just did it because it paid well and impressed people. But you actually wanted to be a lawyer. You had a dream, a purpose, and that made you jealous? It made me insecure, because I knew that if you succeeded, it would show everyone that the path I chose, the prestigious school, the high-paying job, wasn't the only way. He wiped his eyes. I tore you down because I was afraid of what it would mean if you built yourself up. I sat there, processing his words. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, to hear him admit that he'd been wrong. But mostly, I just felt tired. That doesn't make it okay, I said. I know. You hurt me, Daniel. Deeply. I know. And I spent years trying to earn your approval, trying to make you proud, trying to prove that I was good enough. You were always good enough, but you made me feel like I wasn't. He nodded, tears streaming down his face now. I'm so sorry. I took a deep breath. I hope you figure things out, Daniel. I really do. I don't want you to suffer. I don't take pleasure in seeing you struggle. But, I can't be the one to help you. Not with this. Why not? Because you need to do this on your own. You need to rebuild yourself the same I had to, without shortcuts, without anyone vouching for you. Just you and your own merit. Maya, please. You can do it. I know you can. But it has to come from you. He stared at me, fresh tears falling. I don't know if I can. You can, and you will, but not because I helped you, because you decided to help yourself. He stood slowly, unsteady on his feet. I really am sorry, he said again. I know you are. Do you forgive me? I paused, thought about it honestly. I don't know yet, I said. Maybe someday, but not today. He nodded, turned to leave. Daniel, he stopped. For what it's worth, I hope you find something you actually care about. Not just something that looks good, something that matters to you. He looked back at me, something broken and vulnerable in his expression. Thanks, he whispered, and then he left. I sat there for a long time after he was gone. I didn't feel triumphant, didn't feel vindicated or satisfied. I just felt sad. Sad that it had come to this. Sad that my own brother had been the person who hurt me most. Sad that we'd lost so many years to his insecurity and my pain. But also grateful. Grateful that I'd survived it, that I'd built something beautiful despite him, that I'd found my own strength, and grateful that I'd been honest with him. Not cruel, not vengeful, just honest. Because that's who I'd become. Someone who spoke the truth with kindness, someone who held boundaries without apology, someone who knew her worth. And no one, not even my brother, could take that away from me.
2 years have passed since that conversation in my office. I'm now a junior partner at my firm. I lead my own team of associates. I handle high-profile cases that sometimes make the news. Last month, I won a landmark case for a client in an intellectual property dispute. The case set precedent in our state. Other attorneys are citing my work in their briefs. I bought my own apartment, not a rental, an actual apartment I own. It has huge windows that overlook the city, hardwood floors, a kitchen where I actually cook now, a home office with built-in bookshelves filled with law books and novels. Every morning, I wake up and look out at the skyline, and I remember the girl I used to be. The one who believed her brother when he said she wasn't good enough. The one who almost gave up. The one who cried herself to sleep wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. And I'm so proud of her for not quitting. I still see my family, holidays, birthdays, the usual events. Daniel is doing better. It took him a while, but he eventually found a job. Nothing glamorous. He's working at a small marketing firm now, making decent money. Nothing like what he used to make, but enough. More importantly, he seems happier, more grounded, more humble, more genuine. We're cordial now, polite. We can have conversations without tension, but we're not close. And I'm okay with that. Some relationships don't fully heal. Some wounds leave scars. That doesn't mean I wish him ill. I don't. I hope he finds fulfillment in his work. I hope he builds a life he's proud of. I hope he treats people better than he treated me. But I don't need to be close to him to wish him well. My parents and I have a better relationship now. They see me differently. Not as the daughter who came second, but as someone who exceeded all expectations. Mom tells people about me at her book club, about her daughter, the lawyer, the partner. Dad asks about my cases, actually listens when I talk about my work. It's nice, but it also feels bittersweet. Because I spent so many years wanting this recognition, this pride. And now that I have it, I realize I don't need it the way I used to. I'm proud of myself, and that's what matters most. I mentor young associates at my firm now, especially women, especially the ones who remind me of myself, the ones from less prestigious schools, the ones who work twice as hard to prove themselves, the ones who doubt their own capabilities. I see myself in them. And I make sure they know something I wish someone had told me earlier. You belong here. Your path is valid. Your effort matters. Last week, a first-year associate named Jessica came to my office near tears. She'd made a mistake on a brief. Nothing catastrophic, but she was convinced she'd ruined her career. "I'm not smart enough for this," she said. "Everyone here went to better schools. They're all better than me." I looked at her and saw 19-year-old Maya, 22-year-old Maya, 24-year-old Maya. "Can I tell you something?" I said. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I used to think the same thing. I went to a state school for undergrad, a regional law school. I didn't have the pedigree everyone else had. Really? Really? And my own brother spent years telling me I wasn't good enough, that I'd never make it, that I should give up. Her eyes widened. "What did you do?" I kept going. I worked harder than everyone else. I made mistakes, lots of them, but I learned, and I built something I'm proud of, not despite my path, but because of it. She looked at me with something like hope. "You think I can do this? I know you can. You just have to believe it yourself." She left my office standing taller, more determined, and I felt grateful that I could be for her what no one was for me. I've also rebuilt relationships outside of work. I reconnected with college friends I'd lost touch with during my intense work years, started making time for dinners, for coffee, for conversations that weren't about billable hours. I started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but I'm open to it now in a way I wasn't before. For years, I was so focused on proving myself that I didn't make space for anything else. Now I'm learning balance, learning that my worth isn't just tied to my career, that I can be successful and also have a life. It's a work in progress, but progress nonetheless. I also started therapy again, not because something's wrong, but because I want to keep growing. My therapist and I talk about boundaries, about family dynamics, about the ways childhood patterns show up in adult relationships. We talk about forgiveness, not the kind where you excuse someone's behavior, but the kind where you release yourself from carrying their weight. I'm working on forgiving Daniel, not for his sake, but for mine. Because holding on to that anger, that hurt, that resentment, it doesn't punish him. It only weighs me down. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, doesn't mean letting him back into my inner circle, doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It just means I'm choosing not to let his past actions define my present emotions. Some days are easier than others.
I still have moments where I remember something he said and I feel that old anger flare up. But those moments are becoming less frequent, less intense. I'm healing. Slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. Last month, I was invited to speak at my law school's graduation ceremony. They wanted an alumna who'd succeeded in the field, someone who could inspire the graduates. They chose me. I stood at that podium, looking out at hundreds of new law students in their caps and gowns, and I thought about the girl I was when I sat in those seats. Scared, uncertain, full of doubt. I told them my story. Not all of it. Some parts are too personal, but enough. I told them about coming from a non-prestigious school, about working twice as hard to prove myself, about doubting whether I belonged. I told them about the people who didn't believe in me, who told me I'd fail. And I told them what I learned. The people who doubt you are telling you more about their own limitations than yours. They're projecting their fears, their insecurities, their own stories onto you. Don't let that become your story. I told them about resilience, about perseverance, about the quiet strength that comes from refusing to give up. Success isn't about where you start, I said. It's about where you're willing to go. It's about the work you're willing to put in when no one's watching. It's about believing in yourself even when no one else does. The room was silent, attentive. Some of you will have people in your life, family, friends, colleagues, who underestimate you, who make you feel small, who tell you your dreams are unrealistic. I paused, made eye contact with students in the front row. Prove them wrong, not because they deserve the satisfaction of seeing your success, but because you deserve the satisfaction of achieving it. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, students came up to me, shook my hand, thanked me for their words. One young woman, tears in her eyes, said, "My dad doesn't think I should be a lawyer. He says it's too hard, that I won't make it. Your speech, it meant everything." I hugged her. "You'll make it," I whispered. "Just keep going." Driving home that day, I cried. Happy tears, grateful tears. Because I realized something profound. My pain had purpose. Everything Daniel put me through, all the doubt, all the criticism, all the hurt, it shaped me into someone who could help others. Someone who could stand at a podium and tell struggling students, "You're not alone. I've been where you are, and you can make it through." My suffering wasn't wasted. It was transformed into strength, into empathy, into wisdom. And that's a kind of redemption I never expected. I think about Daniel sometimes, wonder how he's doing, wonder if he ever thinks about our conversation. I heard through Mom that he's in therapy too, that he's working on himself, trying to understand why he acted the way he did. I'm glad, I genuinely am. Not because I need him to grovel or apologize more, but because I want him to be whole, to find peace with himself, to build a life that's authentic and meaningful. Maybe someday we'll have a real relationship again, maybe we won't. Either way, I'm okay. Because I've learned something crucial. I don't need his validation. I don't need his approval. I don't need his belief in me. I have my own, and that's more powerful than anything he could ever give or take away. I tell this story not because I want sympathy or praise. I tell it because I know there are people out there who have a Daniel in their life. A parent who doesn't believe in them, a sibling who tears them down, a partner who diminishes their dreams, a friend who competes instead of celebrating. And I want them to know something. That person's doubt is not your destiny. Their limitations are not your limitations. Their fears are not your future. You are capable of more than they can see, more than they can imagine, more than even you might currently believe. The path won't be easy. There will be moments where you want to quit, where their voice in your head becomes louder than your own, where the doubt feels suffocating. Keep going anyway. Not because it's easy, but because you're worth it. Because your dreams matter. Because your potential is real. Because you deserve to see what you're capable of when you refuse to give up. Success isn't about proving other people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about the moment when you look in the mirror and recognize the person staring back at you. When you realize you've become everything you hoped to be. That's the real glow up. Not the title or the salary or the corner office, though those things are nice. The real glow up is internal. It's the confidence that comes from surviving something that could have broken you. It's the wisdom that comes from learning hard lessons. It's the peace that comes from knowing your worth isn't dependent on anyone else's opinion.
I'm Maya. I'm 30 years old. I'm a junior partner at a prestigious law firm. I own my own home. I mentor young lawyers. I speak at graduations. But more importantly, I'm someone who knows who she is, someone who sets boundaries, someone who speaks truth with kindness, someone who built herself from the ground up. I'm proof that the people who doubt you don't write your story. You do. Every choice, every effort, every moment you choose to keep going instead of giving up. That's what writes your story. And mine? It's just getting started. There's a quote I keep on my desk now. It's from a Supreme Court justice whose career I admire. Real change, enduring change, happens one step at a time. That's how transformation works. Not in dramatic moments or sudden revelations, but in the daily choice to show up, to do the work, to believe in yourself even when it's hard. One step at a time. One brief, one case, one day. That's how I built this life, and that's how anyone can build theirs. The brother who said I'd never make it, he was wrong. But more importantly, I was right. Right to believe in myself, right to keep going, right to pursue a dream that mattered to me. And if I could go back and tell that scared 20-year-old girl anything, it would be this. Everything you're going through right now is making you stronger. The pain has purpose. The struggle has meaning. And one day, you'll stand in an office with your name on the door and realize it was all worth it. Keep going, Maya. You're going to make it. And to anyone reading this who's in the middle of their own struggle, who has their own Daniel, who feels like giving up, keep going. You're going to make it too. Your glow up is coming. It might not look the way you expect. It might take longer than you hope, but it's coming. And when it arrives, you'll realize something beautiful. You didn't need anyone else to believe in you. You just needed to believe in yourself. And that belief, that's the foundation everything else is built on. That's the real revenge. Not hurting the people who hurt you, but becoming so fully yourself, so completely whole, that their opinion becomes irrelevant. That's the glow up. And it's available to anyone willing to do the work. I did it. You can too.